Thanks, Travis. And yeah, like you say, what a privilege to come on stage to Dolly Parton. My wife and kids would be very amused by that. And my own personal reflection would be working 9 to 5, if only. Ever since I've been working, I just get longer and longer. But anyway, welcome to this session. We've got some great speakers lined up to talk to you today about people and the people experience of digital twins, which I think is a thing that's often overlooked. And as the CIO of Northumbrian Water, I guess I'm often in the position where I find myself saying that the tech's the easy bit, and you know, kind of cultural change is really where most of our projects will sort of succeed or fail. I think that goes for digital twins, although I might hasten to add the tech probably doesn't feel that easy. In this case, probably a little bit of work to do there as well. And so we've got some really different perspectives for you today. People who are looking at the creation of the digital twins, and then the people looking perhaps more at how we use them. Our own journey with digital twins really started when we talked to McLaren, a Formula One team, and had a really interesting conversation with a gentleman there that worked in their advanced tech. And he said, look, you got to think of a Formula One car as basically an experimental platform with 15,000 moving parts, 900 of which will be changed from one race to the next. And this platform generates 1 million data points every second. And then, and I guess this is really where it comes to the human in the loop, right? Because you can imagine a platform that's generating that much data, that then has to be distilled down to some choices. And then someone has to update the driver who has to do something. So that, I think, is really probably a prime demonstration of why people are so important in terms of getting business success, because you can imagine if something went wrong in that sort of final part of where the human comes into the loop, all of that data is essentially gone to waste. So anyway, like I said, got some great speakers here today from around the globe. We have Ting Liu from Clean Water Services, Joachim Waterval from Vitens, and Darren Coleman from Anglian Water. So the format for this, I'm going to invite them up in order to do a short presentation. I've prepared a few questions myself, and then if you've got any questions, fire them into the chat and I will take those and bring those to the panel on your behalf. So enough from me. I think at this point, I'm going to turn over to Ting. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. Next slide, please. Clean Water Services has been the leader for holistic watershed management, and we integrate wastewater and stormwater collection and treatment, stream restoration, and natural treatment system together. And I'm very excited to share with you all about our digital transformation journey today. We have over 100 digital tools to support system optimization, enhance business efficiency, and collaboration and communication. Next, please. And first, I would like to share with you that how we have evolved over the years from an IT-centric to a digital solutions team that brings IT, OT, and ET expertise together, and what business outcomes we have achieved. Now, first, the IT lays the large infrastructure foundation and a secure network to support a reliable and modern software, hardware, and database. The other major part of our IT team is working on is to continue build and grow our business intelligence capability. And this include integration, data analytics, and data visualization on the dashboard. Mobile capability and cloud technologies that our IT team brought in have largely enhanced our operation efficiency, data sharing, and collaboration. You can think about 10 years ago, we only have one iPad, and today we have over 100 iPhones and iPad to seamlessly integrate field work, inspection record, maintenance history with database together. So this helps the maintenance crew to address ad hoc requests on a timely fashion in the field, and also support how do we mobilize crew as needed during extreme weather conditions. All this operation activities and information has been seamlessly shared among other working groups for regulatory reporting and planning purpose. which is a great benefit for IT and OT integration. And I would say probably this is our start of our digital twin journey. For the last few years, we have also initiated data management effort. And this is through a hub that involves SMEs across the district to uncover dark data and break data silos. We were able to utilizing the conveyance sensor data, for example, which has been used mostly for the field operations, and today utilizing it for wastewater plant optimization and sewer surveillance research. For digital transformation, develop digital twin for the utility. A scalable and a cost-effective network is the foundation. So we have started this looking to open source IoT technology to build these building blocks. So next slide, please. By leveraging open source electronics with the commercial bare-wear sensors, and then integrate them with the data logger, microchip, and other accessories, Clean Water Services IoT team has demonstrated a low-cost, reliable sensor station. You can see a picture of our team members working on assembling a level sensor station guided through a remote session by Limnotech professionals due to this pandemic. And team members, another one is the team effort. It includes members who are familiar with the sensor field deployment, lab staff, and the instrumentation technician to support sensor calibration and maintenance. We also have engineers and modelers to guide data quality requirement, incorporate this real-time sensor data for model calibration. Software engineers were building the sensor stations and doing the programming, dashboarding, and building the data transmission network. And finally, we have stream restoration project team members utilizing this data for project performance evaluation and develop that targeted solutions for watershed restoration and improvement. So today we have deployed over 25 sensor stations and monitoring a variety of different parameters and anticipate a saving over $1 million over the next few years through this approach. Next slide, please. And before I started our digital twin architect, and I just want to acknowledge the digital twins working group's effort. It's been really helpful to bring these components all together into a system perspective. It's been also great to talk with Michael Carl from Brown & Caldwell and work with me to develop this architecture for our conveyance twin. The business outcome for this conveyance twin is to better support future capital planning and investment, enhance prediction and prescriptive analysis to inform operations and maintenance activities, and provides predictions on sewer levels and more on when the weather conditions and the storm is up and coming. We have IT team members support the server setup, data integration with the SCADA and the pump station data sets, and building dashboard. Engineer staff who's focused on model validation and development. And in this case, we have collaborated with Innovize with the ICM model. And we have also engaged with the operations staff to actively involving the team members to understand and identify how digital twin and this live simulations could help them to operate the system as a whole. Next slide, please. To wrap up, it's really important during this digital transformation journey and building the digital twins to align the technology planning and implementation with the district mission and vision and workforce development. And certainly it's going to take quite a few years and to have that vision and dream big, but start small, having the prototype or proof of concept and learn fast. Last but not least, the digital transformation requires a shift in culture, not just technology. Thank you so much for having me here.
Ting, thank you very much for that excellent presentation. And as I said, we'll hold the questions until the end, but I'm sure that many will come through, and I know I've got several myself. So now we're going to move across to Joachim from Vitens in the Netherlands. I want to say a special thank you to Joachim for volunteering to come in to this session a little bit last minute, and so quite brave of him. And I think Joachim's perspective perhaps a little different. He's sat more on the operational side, receiving emerging technology. So not so much a presentation about digital twins per se as, you know, how do you drive adoption of these tools to get the business benefits that we all want. So with that said, I'm going to turn over to Jokke. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Nigel, and also Ting. Well, my name is Jochem, and I'm from the Netherlands. I'm working at Vitens, actually the biggest drinking water utilities in the Netherlands. And at the moment, I am a team lead, or actually team manager of maintenance and technical aspects within the Department of Production. And as you can probably hear from that, is that I'm not part of the development of the digital twin within Vitens or other digital tools or innovation, but are actually on the user side of all those innovations, and therefore also experiencing a little bit about what it brings to our people, what the people are experiencing actually about those innovations, and also how to implement it. So next slide, please. I want to elaborate a little bit on what we call within Vitens our vision on drinking water production 2025. Within Vitens and within that vision, we have a program called Infra 2025, where actually multiple innovation projects, where digital twin is actually one example of. We are running all those projects, but what we want to do in that vision is actually combining the digital innovation with organizational change, so changing behavior, changing culture. And that's also, well, maybe the same thing as Ting told us at the end of her presentation, that it is not only the innovation, but also the culture change. Part of this vision is actually going from craft to data, or you could say from working with experience to maybe working with data. And a very important aspect is that the organization needs to be ready to implement, for example, digital twin, and to get, well, the best use out of it, you could say. Next slide, please. And if I zoom in a little bit on that transformation, it is actually that we want to change the organization as part of the vision and to prepare ourselves for the future. So if I zoom in, is that a few jobs actually within the Department of Production are growing more from generalist functions towards specialist functions. And a good example is that on our production facilities, we had the process operator, and he was the one in charge. So both for operations as controlling the process, but also for maintaining our facilities. We want to bring more focus to the jobs. So now we have technicians and process controllers, but will actually with both their own focus fields. And what we added to that is that for those two jobs, we created together with two institutes a specific training, a specific education for new employees, where we added innovative classes, and not only focusing on the technical aspects, but also focus on skills like analytics, as well as collaboration, as well as communication. So actually bring more focus to the roles that people have, bring ownership within that focus, and also prepare the people for digitalization and faster innovative changes, and that they can also grow with those innovations. So to not only focus on the technical aspect, but add collaboration, communication, skills like learning how to learn, you could say, and keep on learning within your working life, you could say. And that was actually my presentation. So thank you. And I would like to hear some questions, of course.
Okay, we'll do all of the questions at the end. Okay, so hold on to that. I'm sure there'll be questions flood shortly, and if there aren't, I'm just going to ask you some anyway. So right, last but certainly no means least, we've got Darren Coleman, System Performance Manager at Anglian Water. And I would say, I think, you know, when we're as water utilities, it's really important that we reach out and collaborate when we're tackling things like this that inherently perhaps paths that haven't been trodden so much, and therefore a little bit more risky. I know when we at Northumbrian Water are looking to do that, one of the first companies will pick up the phone or get on a Zoom with maybe these days is Anglian Water. So massive respect for Anglian Water and what they do. And they're always collaborative. And so, you know, we share lots of information with them. So I'm very interested to hear what Darren has to say today. Over to you, Darren.
Thank you, Nigel. Appreciate the introduction. Mine's a little bit of a different angle. Mine is kind of setting questions. Mine is kind of challenging ourselves. Have we got the right thinking? Do we need to go further? And actually, when we're looking at the problems we've got within the installation of digital twins, actually, have we got the people in the right places? Have we got the right teams? Have we got the right skills within those teams? So I want to focus around developing that cultural change and the changes that we need to happen. Skills for tomorrow. Are we ready? Maybe some areas, maybe some teams have already been built within those areas. Different utilities, different areas of work have already got those teams in place, others haven't. So actually, what is the skill set that's needed, and actually how do we advance that change as we go forward? Next slide, please. So when we look around the workplace, we could kind of look at the digital twin in multiple areas. So we kind of can see traditional, we can kind of see test areas, development areas with robotics. We kind of look at analytics, the visualization maybe of a digital twin. And then we go even further with the technologies, the sensors that we heard around from Ting, for instance. How do those sensors generate that information? How do we look at commissioning new schemes without physically building those things? So all of these areas, we start to think, what do the teams of the future look like? What are the skill levels that we need? And actually, how do we develop new people coming into our businesses to ensure they've got the right skill set, but also understand where we want to hit the right areas for the business to identify? Is it risk? Is it around efficiencies and cost? And actually, if we want to build a system of systems, that's quite big. So actually, how are we challenging ourselves in these areas? And we've got to drive acceptance with the traditional. We've got to move people from the traditional areas of skills or the areas of work and gradually move them into these new skill areas and new challenges for it. Next slide, please. So of course, developing that cultural change is really important right at the beginning. So is it challenging what we teach at school? Is it challenging the right people or the different people that we bring in from universities? Do we want people who volunteer within the industries already, within your own business group, with your own business sector, that want to develop themselves? Or actually, is it further just about education generally, about where we can actually build this going forward? And actually, what is the value of the digital twin for all the businesses together to drive the output of better skills, better acceptance? And actually, by driving that, we get a better outcome. So with cost, risk, benefits. So I think there's a real challenge here to that cultural change. Things are moving at pace. We need to try and understand exactly how do we keep up with that change, and actually, are we ready? And I think that's some of the areas we really need to start to define, especially within the water utilities sector. We need to really start to understand. Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you, Darren. So I think you've had probably a little taster there of what's going on within 3 organisations. I think the real value from these sessions comes with the questions you now have the opportunity to ask our esteemed panel. So please do dive in. I'll go with one myself just to get things started. There are a few I see coming in the chat here, though, so we'll quickly turn to those. But just perhaps a little bit of a soft lob to start with. And we always now, Simon Sinek coined that phrase, have to start with why, don't we? So I thought I'd just maybe start with what is the number one business problem that you think you can solve within your organization with digital twins and or emerging tech? So I'll go to Ting first, then Joachim, then Darren. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Nigel. I think the number one question we're trying to solve is really the system optimization, and how do we optimize on the watershed scale, including conveyance and the wastewater and the green infrastructure, all of this together, utilizing technology to provide more information for this holistic approach that could help us for long-term capital planning, as well as the annual operation cost savings there. I know you're asking for one business questions. I'm saying this is the optimization question here.
You're refusing to be pinned down to one particular thing. I get it. Okay, all right, fine. Right, Joachim.
Yes, I will try to name one. But I want to name maybe that there are a lot of people who are actually going for retirement within a short period of time. We have a lot of people working for 25, 40 years within VTens. And also the jobs have a long learning period. So I see a big advantage in bringing the knowledge from inside the heads towards the system, and creating a short learning period for new employees. Especially those digital innovations can contribute a lot on that.
So capturing the tacit knowledge, I guess, that's often in people's heads, yep, and is maybe to be found in your data.
Yeah, that they build over the years, but that of course takes a long time to build. And now you can maybe find that information within the data to use actually in the work.
All right. I'm not sure you went to one particular business problem, but that's okay. I think that.
But it's a problem in general with the
absolutely.
With current employees. Yeah.
A problem that many people perhaps in the audience will recognize too, because I think we've all got workforces with lots of knowledge, and over next 10 years, many of them will retire. So Darren, coming to you.
Again, I'm going to disappoint you, Nigel, I think, because we know that the water production, water planning, system performance, the actual development of a smart water system itself is key fundamentally for us in the water sector. But what we've got to be really careful of is driving that value that we see from a digital twin. So around the cost, around the risks that we're trying to identify. Is it around the customer contacts, water quality, for instance? So we can look at the value from the asset life itself, but also we have to link into the end of life in terms of the cycle of the asset, in terms of the performance it gives to our customers through the benefits it gives. But there is a risk, and we need to monitor those risks. So there are fundamentals all the way through that life cycle with the digital twin to drive the value. And I think that holistic view of that value, system of systems, is the key bit.
Yeah, I'm going to latch on to that last phrase there a minute, because if I was to think about my own organization, and let's say the skills gaps that we might have relative to getting value from digital twins, I think it's systems thinking would probably be pretty high on the list. And I'm not sure it's really taught in many places, right? I mean, if you were to go look for a degree in systems thinking, I think you'd come up with a pretty short list of institutions that offered such a thing. So I just wondered your own thoughts on how your organization stands with regard to systems thinking. Do you think it's, your level of maturity? And then if you have a gap, how do you plan to plug that gap? And I'll stay with you, Darren, and then come to you, Joachim, and then Ting this time around.
I think if you look across the business areas, there's different levels. There are certain optimization areas around water, for instance. Systems thinking is really high up in there. The knowledge, the drive to develop the system thinking is there completely. The way to get there we need to collaborate with other business areas. So actually we need to drive that through communication engagement. We need to be showing them across some of the data sets as well. So actually, why are we using this? Why do we need to improve the data quality? So again, as we drive that system thinking, we drive these other areas to also think around how they're impacting the system thinking. So the system performance we want to see. So with that overall smart water network, smart water system we want to build, system thinking is key. So actually it's not a non-infra site, it's not just the pump inside the fence, it's actually the whole network as well. So actually across that piece. So when we're looking at system thinking, it's not just one iteration, it's multiple system of systems.
And do you think, Darren, because again, this is you know, if I was ponder in our organization, if you're talking about a system, you've got a node on the network here and a node on the network there, and there's a relationship between them, isn't there? If this one works twice as fast, then it'll do something different to the next one, or if it stops working, etc., etc. Do you think you have the engineering skills in your organization to be able to describe that?
Individually, yes, but putting it together is the hardest.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
So it's that development piece, it's that next stage piece. So individually we can go into there and see the performances, but by say, if you describe a system to be our hydraulic system, then we need to start to build that, whether it's through near real-time modeling, whether it's through different phases of other systems. We've got SCADA, we've got different systems that can give us near real time. So actually, as we start to plug these things together, we start to see those individual nodes starting to inform each other. And that's the bit. So actually, as we inform, perhaps we can start to control.
Yeah.
And that's the next stages. You know, they're the development areas that really need to start being moved forward.
Okay. Joachim, to come to you in terms of Vitens, and I guess if you would describe on a scale of 1 to 5 your level of maturity in systems thinking, where would you rate yourselves, and what would you think you would need to do to improve, unless you're a 5 already, of course? So
we have a lot of good systems. So, well, I think actually quite high. I think we have, as Darren also mentioned, within Vitens a lot of different systems like SCADA, but also focusing on water quality, different aspects. Good systems, and also the way thinking in there is that we can find each other within Vitens, also to the outside world actually, to improve that. So we're already thinking in systems, but I think the way to improve is inform each other better within Vitens and collaborate better over the different departments to actually combine the input from the different departments, and therefore create better systems. And that's also necessary if we want to use, like for example, digital twin eventually within Vitens in the right way, that we actually inform and collaborate on every level within Vitens to have the right knowledge at the right position actually. So I think that is the gap that we need to fill towards a better system thinking within Vitens.
Another just sort of a sub question there, I think, perhaps, which is, how do you convince your colleagues of 20 or 30 years experience that it's okay not to know everything, that it's okay to still be learning, that you know, we have climate change and things are changing, that they don't have to be 100% knowledgeable and correct all the time?
How do you convince them of that?
Yes.
Ooh, that's of course a difficult task, but the best way, maybe, I'm not going to convince them, but the best way maybe is when there is some fresh blood, you could say, within the organization. If you add that to a team and they collaborate, they inform each other, you have some out of the box thinking, and then they start to realize, that's a good idea. I did not know that. We did not have that within Vitens, and they think, oh wait, it's good to learn that. And then then their view is broadened, you could say, and then they also realize, I don't know, I did not know everything within the water world, and I can still learn. So I think that is the best way, but it's not how I am going to convince them. That is the best way, and that's what I experience.
I think, yeah, storytelling is incredibly powerful, isn't it? I know we had one very early success with machine learning where we were predicting sewage pumping stations failing. And my data scientist went, that pump is going to fail. And the person in the field told him, absolutely not. We maintained that just last week. And he's like, no, I think it's going to fail. In the end, he drove out into the field. He met the guy and they lifted the pump up. And he was like, ah.
Yeah. So
okay, maybe your algorithm has something, but yeah, very good.
Very nice
Ting,
example.
Yeah, Ting. I mean, on systems thinking within your organization, how would you rate yourselves?
I think we're pretty high too, I would say. Obviously, we don't require everybody to be a system thinker. There are people naturally is a linear thinker, which is very good on implementing a particular IT project or modeling task. But we do have a set of the system thinking that team members that is kind of bringing this expertise together. So we, like what yesterday Diane was talking about at the opening session, we call this a spider web. So the system thinker is connecting these linear thinkers together, and we utilizing within Clean Water Services as a hub that bring in like a data management. We bring in people, SMEs, together to define a system or work on some of a more of a holistic system issues here.
Okay, very good. So, but we've got 10 minutes left. I've got questions piling up here. I'm going to go to these now. So, and what I suggest is when I fire out a question, if you feel like you've got a hot answer ready to give, just jump in and we'll take the first one. Okay, and then we'll move through to the next question so we get through quite a few. And I hear this one quite a lot. I'm not sure how much of a people problem it is, but it definitely is a problem. So what are the keys to success for breaking down the data silos? Anyone want to take that?
I can jump in, as I mentioned about the data management hub, and then also add on to what you talked about, Nigel. It's a storytelling. So it's starting to understand and what the data you are all collecting. And the one example I mentioned briefly is we have already the sewer system levels and the flow data, sensor data there, but other department wasn't aware of that in the past. And then they were going to purchase some of the more sensor data for a totally different project for a different department through the collaboration and the communication through the hub, and people say, oh, we could utilizing this this data first and augment for additional sensor data there. So once you establish and getting that confidence and people saying, oh, this is valuable to communicate on the data needs and establish data ownership, then it's getting much easier for people to talk a little bit more. And obviously you'll have the dashboard, you'll have the system that you can support you to look at data altogether.
Yeah, I think, look, cloud and data lakes and things like that make, the technology is making it easier, I think, to break down silos these days. In our world, we have OT and IT in the same department. That has definitely really helped make things easier. So
if I can jump in there, Nigel, as well, I think by showing the value, it brings people together as well.
Yes.
I think that's one key piece, because you're seeing the outputs that you can drive from that piece of data. You can then communicate that through, and I think that really does drive the collaboration, understanding where you can fit the data together and actually drive that data fusion and more analytics. Very good. This next question is a bit harder, so but Darren, you're right on screen, so yeah, let's see if you fancy this one or not. So if not, someone else might jump in and save you. So what is the right culture? That's the right culture, and how do you measure culture? Difficult, extremely difficult, isn't it? I think around the culture piece, it is about acceptance. So actually you're turning the teams around, you're understanding high performing teams, you're looking at a culture change, you're seeing acceptance of new technologies, you're seeing acceptance of process changes, you're seeing an acceptance of maybe new training ideas. So you may have to, after 20 years being in the business, actually go on a new training course. So I think as you slowly emerge from that, you start to see that cultural change happening as a natural outcome. But I think it's about the new starters coming in. I think that wave of new starters start to drive that different cultural change within the business as well. So it can't just be about a process orientated change. It doesn't drive culture.
So if I was to paraphrase what you've said there, I think you're talking about a culture where everybody's learning, perhaps, all of the time. Any thoughts on measurement at all? I mean, it's not an inherently easy thing to measure, is it? But just wondered if you've any thoughts at all about how you might look at that from a, you know, in the performance dialogue, people management type way.
I think it's that surveying of your teams, surveying of your staff to ensure that you understand where maybe the pinch points are, and maybe some of the technologies, you know, even just the hardware itself. Have we got the right hardware for people to engage? So again, by understanding through surveys, understanding through listening groups, and actually we can then start to measure. So if there is high engagement, if there's high take up of open courses for people, you know, come and join us, new learning pathways, for instance. If you can start to measure some of the acceptance into those learning pathways, maybe you can then start to measure actually the acceptance of that cultural change is starting to happen.
Okay.
Maybe
Joachim, anything you would add to that?
Yeah, maybe I can jump in a little bit also, not really a measure, but indeed maybe start with survey and also check that people can really open up about what they are experiencing, so that they are not afraid to open up and say what's really on their mind. So that's also maybe what's the right culture. We once had a presentation within Videns where someone promoted actually making failures. So just that people can try and also can fail, and that they are not only that it's not a bad thing actually, because there's also something to learn, always something to learn from a failure, and that you can also improve within the company. So that's also maybe a part where you feel, yeah, I've hit the right culture. People actually try to do something. So that's a good thing, I think, when we talk about innovation. Yeah,
I mean, we certainly have an element within our innovation program, at least, of you know, volunteerism, if you like, of people. Okay, who wants to take this idea and run with it? And it certainly is quite telling. There is a cohort of people who will, and I think quite clearly a cohort of people who won't. And those, you know, it's becoming a bit of a differentiator. I wouldn't say we have a great measure for it yet, but you can definitely see it. So I'd agree with that. Another question though, what are some of the strategies or tactics that you use to attract new talent? And Joachim, you're right here, so I don't know if you want to take your first pass at that.
Cool. Well, you want to attract young and new talent. Well, I think give the opportunity to innovate and to experience, to learn, to grow. So people are not only looking out for you could say a money or a steady job. No, the current days people, and especially young people, are looking for they're feeling actually with the job. So drinking water is of course a beautiful product, you could say, that people really want to connect to, and you can really give them that opportunity, and that together with innovation and experience, trying, that really, I think, connects young and new people to drinking water utilities.
So playing up the aspect of the purpose of the organization, if you like, yeah.
The purpose.
I mean,
yes.
I think it has a strong appeal I think for the next generation, certainly. Yeah. Darren, Ting, anybody want to? Either of you want to come in on that?
I would definitely agree with that, Nigel. Showing you've got the right values, the purposes are there for everybody to see. The wider engagement, so showing your customers as well, because you know, eventually your customers become your employees as well in certain areas of sort of development as well. So Yeah, I think those values are really, really key to driving that, and I think that ultimately leads to engagement with schools, delivering the right digital apprenticeships, for instance, changing the way apprenticeships are delivered. We use a lot of social media these days, don't we? So it's making sure that the right areas of those values and purposes are flagged and signposted in the right areas.
Okay, very good. I think this brings me, go on, sorry, Ting, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I just want to also add, I agree with both of the comments here with the mission and the purpose here, and also utilize social media there. I think the third element is to build a pipeline from a high school to college and to research institute, and bringing that new talents to especially around the technology area, to the water sector here. And I also just want to put a plug. We're always looking for the new talents, so feel free to contact me if you are interested in.
I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but anyway, you did it already. So, all right, I think that brings me to probably the last question we'll have time for. Hang on, I'm just okay, all right. So this is the most voted question, so I'm going to ask you this one. In your organizations, what team has driven digital transformation and the required culture team? I mean, a culture change, and I'm going to give you all a chance to answer that. We'll start with you though, Ting. You're right here on the screen in front of me. So.
Yeah, for us, since I'm leading the IT team, so I do feel like for us as a digital solutions, the formally is the IT team is driving this change. But I do work closely with the business leaders and understanding their challenges and what they are trying to accomplish, and bringing the OT and ET expertise together. So it's a team effort, but I do a lot of this, the initial strategic planning and working with the leaders there. And to having that, we're in the process of looking to the digital twin and how we develop that in the next few years.
Okay, very good. Darren?
Again, combination. We've got obviously the IS services, we've got the optimization teams, we've got business areas around that actually try and deliver through the alliance that we've got with different partners out there. So I don't think there's ever one team, and I don't think there ever should be, because you've got the innovation. Yes, you've got innovation as a team, but we should all be thinking around innovation, what we can do better. There are definitely areas of the business that have it as their day job more, but everybody is thinking around systems thinking, should be driving it anyway. So I think that it comes back to the cultural piece. It comes back to, you know, how do you get the right talents in the business? So I think there's different areas, but definitely it's not just one team, it's multiple teams collaborating together.
All right, very good. And Joachim, to close the show.
Yes, well, I think actually it starts at the top. You know, in the organization that actually drives the digital transformation, especially when I speak from experience within Videns, to actually focus on it within the vision, within the strategy, because it's something that is, well, growing more rapidly. The opportunities with data are growing more rapidly, so you need to change yourself to prepare for it. And it starts actually with the strategy and the vision, and then of course the culture change needs to start from bottom up. But I think you have a good start when you start with a real commitment also from the top of the company on this digital transformation. Okay, excellent, thank you, and thank you to all three of you